Welcome back to TechWorldTV, and I am joined here by Tech Deals. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. How you doing? Hello, everybody.
Yes. Everyone should be out there, and they were loving the last week. I got so much good feedback from last week's show. Thank you guys so much for that. Everyone just, thought the show was really good. I liked the way it flowed. There was some complaints about the donations and how they were flowing through, so I've changed the noise. It's only going to be a little noise. But I spoke with Tech Deals, and we both agreed that if a good topic does come up, then we will talk about that midstream, because I actually really liked the Spectre meltdown discussion we had last week, and that was really good. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so in the last week, what's been happening?
I hear this thing called Ryzen 2 launched. I don't know if it was a big deal or not, but apparently some people are excited that it came out.
What's this? The Ryzen.
Ryzen 2.
Yep, so Ryzen 2 came out, and it's getting spammed everywhere. Like, everywhere I go, Ryzen 2 is in my face. Ryzen 2, Ryzen 2. I just did my review, and I'm going to get so much other stuff done. It's ridiculous. But I don't know.
Well, we can talk about the other exciting topic then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with Ryzen 2, what is the... Like, if you think Ryzen 2, what is the most appealing thing about it to you? What CPU and what upgrade over the previous generation?
Well, unless you're stepping up from a lower end chip, I don't think cross upgrades from Ryzen 1 make any sense. Like a Ryzen 5 1600 to a Ryzen 5 2600 is not enough of a change. That doesn't make sense. But if you, for example, bought into Ryzen 1 at a budget, maybe you bought a B350, you bought a Ryzen 5 1400, and now maybe you want some more performance or you're doing some more multitasking, the chance to keep your motherboard and RAM in place and step up to a 6 or 8 core chip without having to change motherboards is a really cool opportunity. And I love the fact that the good coolers now come with every chip, which is a nice change.
Yeah, the 2700X is nailing it in terms of value for money. There is that fine line. I'll probably make some more content with the 2700X versus the 8700K. The Ryzen 5 1600, 2600, how do you feel about that with the stealth cooler? Like, when I tested the stealth cooler on the X, it was like you could do benchmarks quickly, but if you did like an IDA64 stress test and you just watch the heat slowly go up, in other words, the cooler
There's
couldn't.
no headroom.
Yeah,
If you overclock the 2600 on the included cooler, it runs out of. If you want 2600X speeds, you're either buying a 2600X or you're replacing the stealth cooler.
yeah, and so I found if I upped it to 3.8 gigahertz in the IDA64 stress test, it just like you watch the graph slowly go up, and then it just thermal like clipped off and crashed. So I guess that was probably the only disappointing thing about the second gen Ryzen series was the included stealth cooler, because the Ryzen 5 1600 came with that bulky Spire cooler, and that was good for 3.8 gigahertz.
Well, my advice in my review was simply if you're spending, now, of course, this was mostly tuned towards the 2700X. I haven't properly reviewed the 2600 yet because AMD didn't send me one, but that's okay. So I rushed and I got the 2700X versus the i7 8700K out. And in my opinion, the 2700 is probably the most pointless CPU in that stack, in the sense that I get why people might buy a 2600 because they see that 199 price and they're on a budget and they're trying to find a middle road. And I get it. But if you're spending 300, if you're at the $300 price point, another $30 is 10% and you get such a better cooler.
Completely agree.
So if you're buying a Ryzen 7, just buy the X chip, which is different than the advice I gave in Ryzen 1, because the 1700 came with the Wraith, Spire, and the 1700 didn't come with one at all. And if you remember at launch, they were what, $70 apart in price?
Yep.
399 versus 329 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're $30 apart and you get a Wraith Prism. No brainer. So
Yeah.
buy a 2700X.
Plus, I mean, I don't know about the binning. I haven't tried any 2700 non-X's, but 2700X might be better binned. Not too sure. But I'd hazard a guess as to say yes, it would be the cream of the crop as well. So there's that too, on top of everything. But we'll talk about Ryzen 2 a little bit later. Do we want to jump into the probably the most talked about topic at the moment, and that is the GTX 1180, the rumors. So,
yes.
Okay, so what we got
Fire
here.
away.
So we'll fire away with the specs. We've got 12 nanometer FinFET. So they're dropping the node down from 16 nanometer to 12 nanometer. We've got a increased die size, but when you look at the die size here, 400 millimeters squared, it's not really a drop in size considering the amount of CUDA cores is going up to 1080 Ti levels. So the GTX 1080 Ti, has a die size, I think, of 471 millimeters squared. Scared. You're getting scared of this 1180
Squared.
runaway. So what I'm seeing here really is just a refresh of an 1080 Ti just shrunk down to 12 nanometer. So, and of course GDR6. So really on...
And 16 gigabytes per second versus 11 of bandwidth.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it going to make a big difference in gaming? Of course, you're going to get the power consumption efficiency that's coming out of that with 12 nanometer. But are you going to see a big leap in performance when you look at the 1180 versus the 1080 Ti?
The one place I see it making a difference is 4K. The memory bandwidth for larger textures at 4K gaming may show, like 1080p and even standard 1440p may not show the big gap, but if you can get another 10 or 20% performance at 4K, that, if it takes you from 50 to 70 frames per second, that's a leap for people who are struggling to begin with. Of course, if you already own a 1080 Ti, is it going to be worth replacing a 1080 Ti with this? Probably not. But if you own a 1070 or a 1080 and you're struggling at 4K, then it makes sense. But how many people are using a 1070 at 4K anyway?
I don't know anyone. So if anyone's
you can. Overwatch will do it, but
Well, you do drop the textures down. Like if you go 1070 at medium, it looks worse in my opinion than 1440p high in some games. Low versus high.
Completely agree with you.
So
absolutely, yes. Going to 4K and turning to medium is silly. I'd much rather lower the resolution. And if you want proof of this, I realize this is consoles, but if you want proof of this, they learned a long time ago that running at a lower resolution with better textures actually makes the average person think it looks better.
Really?
Than to run at a higher resolution with lower textures. So, in any case, yes, I agree with you.
I should have pulled up that study. That would have been awesome. So, but really...
Well, just as an example, most Xbox One games, for example, either run at 720p or 900p. They don't run at 1080p because they don't have the horsepower.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
they upscale because it's better to have the textures than it is to have the resolution.
That's true. I never really looked at consoles a whole lot, but I know the latest Xbox One X, is it the Pro, the big one, the 4K?
Yeah, the Xbox One X claims to be a 4K console, but only like indie and really lightly loaded games are most games are at like 1440p upscaled.
Yeah, well, it feels to me like they've got the games that are perfectly optimized and they're just showcasing them. And then when you had a game like PUBG run on it, it just ran like absolute crap.
30 frames per second.
Yeah, but the stuttering as well. Like there's reports of just massive stuttering and this and that. So, yeah, it is what it is. So, my brother's a console fanboy. He went out and bought one like day one. And then he watches me play PC. The sad thing is he built like a really good PC. I helped him build this really awesome PC. And he just jumps on. He's like, I don't like mouse and keyboard. And then he goes and flips it, makes some money. And I'm like, dude, you want to hook us up a bit? Because I got all the deals for him. And he's like, no. I'm like, what? So I got screwed over by my brother. GG. But yeah, that's what you do for your family. And on other news though, back to the 1180. So it looks like refresh. Is that, like, in terms of the architecture itself, it looks like it's actually a refresh, but they're naming it Turing?
Yeah, it's this isn't new. Basically, what competition does NVIDIA really have? Sure, there's the $3,000 Titan V or Titan 5, depending upon how you read it. But since AMD has no competition to push against the 1080 Ti, why would NVIDIA beat themselves because they can't really raise the price point. $699 is about the most they can charge for a consumer card, regardless of the mining market. And so by coming out with a refresh for a year, they can hold their good stuff for another year and just keep milking money. I mean, they're selling every card they make.
And plus the power efficiency makes the biggest deal for miners. So dropping down 16 nanometer to 12 nanometer is just bank. So
Do you think this might mean that we start seeing used deals on 1080 Ti's if this is comparable in performance but uses 20% less power?
absolutely. I mean, if someone can get $500 for their 1080 Ti and buy one of these for $700, and they're going to do the calculations where it's going to draw less power over time. Because another big thing that these massive miners face is heat, like putting out a lot of heat. So they've got to keep that heat under wraps. Obviously, they can't have their graphics cards outdoors getting weathered. So they've got to have them indoors, and they've got to keep that whole room clean, cool. Don't know what's going on with my English today, but yeah, so they've got to keep that whole room cool. So it's in their best interest to keep power consumption as low as possible. So with that 12 nanometer drop, it's going to be very popular for miners, unfortunately. I know people aren't going to want to hear that, but you come around to Tech City, you're going to get the truth. You ain't going to get the, hey guys, like, let's make everybody happy.
Well, if this does come out in the summer, like the current rumors are stating, what does it say in here? July?
Yeah, so July, we'll move back to the article quickly. So we got here July 2018, sometime there.
So if it comes out in July and you want one of these, I would pre-order it the day it goes up, because I'll bet you on launch day and the week after, you're not going to find one.
Very true. I think that will be the case. Absolutely.
Don't wait for the reviews. If you're a high-end premium gamer and you've been waiting for this, if you wait for reviews, I think you're just wasting your time. I just order one.
Yeah. So, well, honestly, you're looking what 5% more performance, 10% at best than a 1080 Ti. But of course, you're looking at better power efficiency, possibly better overclocks. It depends on the new node itself. Yeah.
More VRAM.
Yeah, and the GDR6 as well, of course, big factor there. So it does look like it's an improvement, but it's more a refresh than a whole new architecture. Like,
but at least
Pascal
it's a
was the
refresh and not a rebrand.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's not like the 400 to 500 series RX cards, which were just a rebrand.
They were, yeah, with higher clock speeds and more power consumption. So you're exactly right. That is exactly right. So refreshes are generally better than a rebrand. I think we can both agree there. Ryzen 2 would be
a refresh.
Yeah, it's a refresh. So what would you say the 4790K was to the 4770K? That'd be interesting. They called it a refresh. What would you call it? To me, it's a rebrand.
I have both a 4770K and a 4790K, both installed on Z boards, both with liquid cooling. I actually do in the other room. I have both still. My 4790K will overclock higher than my 4770K will, but that's a sample size of one each, so that doesn't mean anything. But my anecdotal evidence is that my 4790 does go higher, but we're talking about 200 megahertz higher. Big deal.
Okay. 200 megahertz. That's it.
I wish they were soldered.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny thing. I was going to do a video on the first generation LGA 1156 chips. They were pasted on, and it's a huge thing for me. They just use paste. That was when they first, I think, tested the waters with using paste on overclockable chips. And no one really noticed it. And then the 2500K came out and they decided to solder it again, which is very weird because they released X79. X79 was the X58 improvement, and Z67 was the P55 improvement. So I found it funny that they went from paste back to solder. That was very weird. I don't know what happened there. But they did have two different teams working on those architectures at the time. So maybe that other team that made Sandy were like, no, we've got to solder this thing. And it was a big improvement. But maybe they thought with the first generation, they were like, no one noticed that it was pasted on. So we'll just roll it out with Ivy Bridge. And the problem was with Ivy Bridge, when people got the chips, they were like, wow, these don't overclock anywhere near as high as the Sandy Bridge chips. And then they started to investigate, and then, yeah, that was where the pace thing was exposed. And at that time, YouTube had grown a lot more. Video media and, people ranting and whatnot had grown a lot more than the first gen chips. Like, YouTube was still non-existent, I think, when those first gen chips were released. Everyone was doing unboxing videos just with a crappy vlog cam at that stage. So, I don't know. Interesting times. I really hope Intel goes back to soldering again. And I think they will. Believe it or not. I think they actually will now.
If the rumored, we talked about this last week, if the rumored 8-core 16-thread Coffee Lake chip on the Z390 comes out and they don't solder it, I don't know how they're going to get clock speeds and heat under control, because 8700K is fine, but if you added 2 more cores and you tried to maintain clock speeds,
yeah,
that's a lot. So do you have an i7 2600K?
No, I got a 2600. I just picked up a 2600, not a 2600K.
I've got a 2600K on my old Asus Z68 motherboard, and using a basic cheap 120mm AIO, it runs 4.5, default settings, everything, all day long, cool and quiet, no complaints. And my 4770K on a larger cooler will not hit 4.5.
Oh, wow.
And, but it's toothpaste versus soldering. I mean, the 2600K is soldered and the 4770K is not. So
did you try D-Lid, or you just don't believe in it at all?
I don't have a problem with it, but I don't have enough motivation to do it.
Well, I got a Vice now at my house studio, so I'm going to be D-lidding like everything that comes through that can be D-lidded. One thing I found, though, I'm going to go back to using Liquid Pro versus the Conductonaut stuff. I just like working with it better. I don't know what it is. Call me old school. I know there's like Liquid Ultra out there. I just like using the Liquid Pro stuff. I guess when you get used to something, you just, I don't know, you know it inside out. Just like my old Xeons. But also I was going to ask, so you think, just a quick question though, you think with the new 8-core that Intel will release, you think if they don't solder it, we're going to have a lot of fodder on our hands? If
they don't solder it, I think they're going to have to lower the clock speeds to basically make it pointless from Ryzen 7 2700X. If they want the clock speed over 2700X, they're going to have to solder it.
Yeah. And we'll get a lot of fodder from that solder.
Fair enough.
The joke.
I'm trying to decide if that was a joke or not.
I'm just making fun. I'm just making fun of the solder versus solder thing. I just love the way you say it. It's just funny. I don't know. I can't help.
Let me put it this way. Intel makes these wonderful claims that the toothpaste lasts longer. It doesn't have the risk of cracking. It saves them a little bit of money. I read something. Somebody made a comment the other day beneath a video and said, no, this is Intel's way of trying to force people to upgrade more often.
It's like, I've spoke to extreme overclockers about it. Like, I'm not going to name who and any. They just told me straight away it's a money thing. That's all it is. It's just money. It saves cost, and that's all it is.
Oh, somebody made a comment. Do you see that?
Yeah. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, dude. Ultimate 6-core Showdown is coming very soon. Just go to review the Taichi Ultimate for ASRock. That review will be dropping very soon. I finished the NUC review, so that'll be coming very soon too. That were the 2 videos I have to get done before the end of the month. And then the 6-core Showdown should be coming in like the next couple of days. That'll get released straight away. Like as soon as I've finished that video, it'll get released. So look forward to bringing that out. I know a lot of people are dying for that. I'm going to bring some more budget sort of old school showdowns versus new. That's going to come as well. Can't wait to deliver that. Because this whole studio has just enabled me to really get back on track. I had one guy though. One guy commented. He's like, I'm unsubscribing until you do the SR2 build. And it's like, I just face palmed, man. I was just like, dude, when I do the SR2 build, it's going to take me like literally a week. I'm not going to be able to make content because that build is going to take so much time, and I want to do it, but I got to get through all my backlog. I got to do videos, new products do pay the bills. And if I do the SR2 build, there's going to be no content for a week. The video will get released. There's nothing new about it. There's no affiliate links or anything. So it's going to be a straight up me losing money for a whole week. And it's only really for the diehard enthusiasts of the channel. I love them. I'll take care of them, but I have to get my backlog done first. And it's just like, he's just like, unsubscribe. It's like, if that's how you feel about the channel and the way it goes, like, please, when I release the SR2 build, just don't watch it. Like, if that's your attitude, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, for me, it was just, I've been delivering on the broken promises. Every broken promise I've made, I'm slowly getting through them and delivering. And it just made me upset. I was probably like I get guys trolling me every single day with like horrible comments. They don't bother me. But that one just got to me. I don't know what it was. I was like, dude, come on. You know, I've been sweating my ass off here.
Just remind him
and
that he is always welcome to a double his money back refund of how much money he's paying you to make videos. And if he's unhappy with his free content,
yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but at the end of the day, there are actually a frightening number of people who go, why aren't you making the videos I want to watch? Because you aren't paying anything.
Yeah. Well, my Patreon viewers, if they've got big requests, I always listen. Like, they're the guys who've been supporting me for a long time. Like, so that was one of the Patreon supporters with that i7 scam. He contacted me and he said, can you help me out? And I was like, sure, because I've known him for a long time as well. And so I look forward to the day where we meet in real life and have a beer. But yeah, it's just like things like that. It's just, I don't know, man, that whole sense of like, guys, this is my job. I have to live off this kind of thing. And if I just did used content, I know people love it. I love doing the used content, but it makes me no money. And AdSense doesn't pay like crap all. So the channel would be dead in the water if I just did used parts. And it was funny because I met up on the used parts hunt. I met up with Matt, and he said, oh, I love Nerd on a Budget. And I love Danny too, man. Danny's got an awesome channel. And he said, but he doesn't upload enough. And I just laughed. I said, dude, do you know why Danny doesn't upload enough? It's because he doesn't make any money off doing used parts, like on the video content. So it's a tough game, but that's sort of like the dilemma that we're faced with doing used price performance.
There's only a handful of people large enough that they can focus. A good example would be, do you know Lazy Game Review?
I've heard of him. I haven't watched his content.
He's got, and I could be wrong about this, he's got like 600, maybe it's 700,000 subs now, but he's been doing it for like 5-6 years. He's one of the old school guys.
Okay.
And he's been doing it long enough now that he can get hundreds of thousands of views per video. And he does exclusively old school stuff. Really nothing new. Occasionally, like, a Sims game review or something he enjoys.
Yeah.
But the number of people like him, I use him as an example, the number of people like him who are now big enough that he can make money just off the ad revenue, you could probably count on two hands. All the guys, like you mentioned, Nerd on a Budget, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't pay the bit. There's a bunch of 50,000 sub, 100,000 sub YouTube channels which make good content, but unless they have affiliate links, unless they have sponsors, a 50,000 sub, even 100,000 sub YouTube channel doesn't pay enough. You can't make a living on that.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, I'm just trying my hardest, man. I'm doing my best here. So it really is what it is, and I can't do anything. I can't really change anything because I'm full throttle at the moment. I'm waking up in the morning. I'm doing YouTube content. It's funny, on Twitter, someone's like, dude, you got to go get yourself a girlfriend. And I'm just like, yeah, I do. I'm just not really keen to go get wrecked again, like my ex, did a number on me. So really not too keen for that.
Girlfriends are a money and time investment. Now, if you could figure out a way to what you need is a girlfriend who helps you with the channel.
Where do you find a girl like this? Please tell me. No, it ain't on Tinder. I ain't trying Tinder either. People are like, try Tinder. I'm like, no. Not going near that thing. I remember I tried it once in Vegas, and this is a true story. Tried it when I was in Vegas, like a year and a half ago, whatever, PAX, before we went to PAX Seattle. And I jumped on there, and I was like, cool, there's some nice people here. Started chatting, and then the chick's like, oh, by the way, I charge $300 an hour. And I'm just like, ugh. And then this was like all the girls I matched with on it. Like, I charge $300 an hour. I'm like, okay, I'm not looking for that, you know? Yeah, so anyway, that was my experience with Tinder so far. So I really haven't been keen to try it again. But yeah, maybe after I get through like a heap of content and the SR2 build gets done, I might try dating again. Just FYI, if people, especially Carl on Twitter, he was wondering. So there you go. Anyway, this is, I don't know, TechWorldTV. Maybe we should get back to the tech here. Next article. So we were talking about the Ryzen 7 here, the 2800X. And this is going to take on Intel's 8-core Coffee Lake chips. So what do you think the 2800X is going to have? Some people have rumored that it could have 10 cores. And I mean, I watched a Bauer's video, and he said that the die size was the same, but they shrunk down to 12 nanometer, which was interesting to see. So what's your thoughts and opinions on that? I mean, I've got no idea when it comes to that. Like, I'd love to see DeBauer do another... sort of how he sands it down and he just sees the exact, you know, like he did for the Threadripper chip. So, oh yeah,
there is, in my opinion,
in case it's just on another account.
There is, in my opinion, I don't want to say zero because zero is a small number. There is virtually no chance that it's going to be a 10-core chip, and the reason I say that is because AMD has built their entire Zen architecture on a 4-core CCX complex design.
Yep.
They'll do a 12-core Ryzen at some point, but I mean, yes, they could do a 10-core or they could do a 10-core with 3 CCXs with 2 cores disabled for bidding purposes. But 10 is an odd number. They would save that for Zen 2, in my opinion. But what do I know? I mean, it's... Here's the thing. The general consumer platform hardly needs 8 at the moment. 8's nice. Really, most people could buy a Ryzen 5 2600X and be happy as a peach. Buy a $100 motherboard, buy a $230 2600X, and be good for years to come. The only reason I think a lot of people, if you have the money, should buy a 2700X is just future-proofing because you don't know where games are going. You don't know future applications, and just extra cores are nice. But it's $100 for 2 more cores, and
yeah, I mean, I think
I guess it depends on how much your whole system costs, is whether that's worth it.
Well, when we think about 6 cores, 12 threads, back when the 5820K was released, it wasn't like relevant for gamers, really. But now it seems like 6 cores, 12 threads is where it's at for the majority of people, like who want that top of the line performance. So
I already find 6 cores limiting though.
I
try live streaming on one computer, Ghost Recon Wildlands, on an i7-8700K, and unless you cap the frames, it's choppy.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
I've done that, actually. That's on my gaming channel.
Okay, what software do you use for streaming, though?
OBS with NVIDIA encoding.
Okay, yes, because I find XSplit, whenever I do my streaming benchmarks, I never have one problem with streaming. And I've streamed on 8400s even, and I just don't get a problem. I mean, maybe I'm testing the wrong games. I test Dota 2. I've even tested PUBG. PUBG is very intense. So I just find
But PUBG is not using all of your cores and threads, whereas Ghost Recon does.
Okay. All right, I'll take a look. Okay, so maybe for the streaming benchmarks, I take a look at Ghost Recons in the future. That's probably something that comes out of this, right?
Well, I mean, and I did a number of games, and many games are just fine on it, but it's, if you set the, I mean, if you either turn VSync on or you cap your frames, the problem goes away, but the problem is your cores are being used, your graphics card's being used, and in my opinion, if you're live streaming AAA games, like the Far Cry 5s of the world, the latest and greatest big budget titles. I mean, Dota 2, League of Legends, CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, those are no big deal. I would get a Ryzen 7 2700X all day long for live streaming over an 8700K personally.
Well, that'd be a great video idea for you. Ghostlands Recon.
Make a
8700K
video.
versus
Can't everybody just
2700X.
take my word for it?
People want a video. There's always, you got to make a video about something. Like okay, well I can take that logic. Okay, guys, just picture it in your head. SR2 build, two X5690s in a Corsair case, hardline tubing, done. There it is. There's a video. Okay, let's move on. All right. Done.
See how much work I've now saved you. I just saved you a week of work. I expect a fruit basket out of this.
So sorry, I didn't catch the name. He asked, is the GTX 1060 for $280 as well? Was that a good buy? Yeah, that's a very good buy. I'm looking for a 1060 at the moment, just to do like a real budget 1060 to do a comparison, because the last one that I bought off eBay, I've already hocked that in a build. But that's awesome. Yeah, 280 AUD for a 1060 is really good. How much are you guys paying in America at the moment? Have they dropped a little bit? Because last week I thought I saw one for like 270 US, which is quite expensive still for a 1060. What's the cheapest you've found?
The good 1060 6 gig cards are 300, and the good 1060 3 gig cards are 250. They were about $20 cheaper than that a week ago, but those cards are gone.
Okay.
So 250 and 300 for the 3 and 6 gig is about what they're going for at the moment.
Yeah. So, okay, sorry, back onto the topic of the 8700K. Do you think for most gamers, though, like, say, for instance, they're playing Ghost Recons, but they're not streaming. I mean, how many people actually stream nowadays and do it day in, day out? Like, the average person's, like, I'd say, like, 99% of people who are gamers are gamers.
Well, sure, there's a lot of people who stream casually, but the number of people who stream seriously are of 1%, less than 1%. It's a trivial number.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. I think 6 cores, 12 threads is relevant now, but how long do you think that's going to be? The new 4 core, how long do you think that'll be that long for? When do you think 8 cores, 16 threads will be more relevant? Like, it'll be the new thing to have. I'd say about a year and a half's time is when 8 cores, 16 threads will be the sort of mainstream enthusiast go-to choice.
I have two answers to that question.
Yeah.
The first answer is, if you're the kind of person who upgrades every 3 to 5 years and plays games for a while, and it's okay to wait for games to be out for 6 months to a year to buy them on the $10 and $20 Steam sales, and you don't have to keep up with the Joneses on every game. You don't buy the Far Cry 5 or 6 the day it comes out. You're okay to go, well, I'll wait till it's on sale. If you're that person, a Ryzen 5 2600X should easily last you 5 years, in my opinion, because you're not a demanding person. If you're going to maybe do one graphics card upgrade in the next 5 years and you skip maybe 2 generations before you upgrade, you don't need to be on the latest and greatest. On the other hand, if you're the kind of person who goes, well, gee, my GTX 1080 is getting long in the tooth, I'm going to buy the 1180, and then I'll buy the 1280 as soon as it comes out, and then I'll buy because you buy every generation of card, and you buy Far Cry 5 and then Far Cry 6 the day it comes out, I would buy a 2700X all day long, because you're the kind of person who's on the bleeding edge, and you'll hit that 6-core limit before the average casual gamer will.
Okay. So one more question, though, with the 2700X. Have you felt the difference? Can you home in on your Jedi senses, and can you feel the snappiness compared to the 1800X? I could feel it.
Are you playing on a high refresh rate monitor?
No, but it's just like every little things, you know, you move a little file into Premiere Pro or something, just doing these little things just feels more snappy. Yeah, 2700X to the 1800X. That's all.
If I tell you no, are you going to be upset with me?
No, I don't. But dude, it's your opinion. I don't care. Like,
I just got done testing the 1800X the week before this launched. In fact, I did a bunch of benchmarks on 4 different graphics cards. I published some. Actually, I've got one coming out tomorrow. That's neither here nor there. But I actually did spend a week with the 1800X before it dropped. I took the 1800X directly off of my test bench, put the 2700X on, and immediately started benchmarking.
yeah,
And
you notice the snappiness. Okay.
would that make you feel better?
Yep.
I gotta tell you, I mean the 2700X is faster than the 1800X, but if I found an 1800X for cheap, it wouldn't dissuade me from buying it. In fact, I actually did a week ago buy a Ryzen 7 1700, believe it or not. Newegg was having that sale a week ago, which you probably didn't pay attention to because you're in Australia.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think to $210 delivered for a Ryzen 7 1700 with the Wraithspire RGB cooler?
Wow, that's a really good deal. And you couple that with a solid B350 motherboard, you're in heaven. So,
It was about 208.50 after the cash back and the credit card, discount, delivered for a Ryzen 7 1700. And I went ahead and bought one. Of course, I'm sitting here going, well, the second gen's coming out in a week, but I'm like, for this price, just over $200, and I got a stack of B350 boards to put one on. $200 for an 8-core 16-thread Pro. That's a steal.
it is. So it's funny how,
Now I'm
because,
telling everybody this, and they can't go buy it now, which is probably making them upset they missed it. But
hey, that's the
my
rule of
point is,
the rule of a deal hunter is you always get the deal for yourself before you recommend it to others. That's like top 10 commandments of deal hunting. Don't worry.
so I mean, I bought it because I'm sitting here going, would I recommend this? Yes, this is such a good deal. If you come across a Ryzen 5 1600 right now for what would it have to be for? I mean, if you came across it for 139, would you snap it up in a heartbeat?
Which one, sorry?
A Ryzen 5 1600?
139?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd snap it up for that. That's dirt cheap.
That's
That's
just great. So there's a price at which the previous generation chips. See, I would not have said that so much about the FX chips when Ryzen launched, because Ryzen was such a breath of fresh air over the FX chips.
huge improvement, huge, different league entirely.
So even though the FX chips were cheap at the time, it's like, I don't know that I'd buy them even cheap because it so much change. But I would take a Ryzen first gen at the right price, and I did a week ago.
Okay. Well, I mean, it depends. Like 179, I'd take the 2600 over that. So 139 is getting pretty cheap. I can ignore the snappiness just for that price. Yeah, like that's the main. How much of a price tag do you put on snappiness? That's what you got to ask yourself. That is the question, ladies and gentlemen. At when does the snappiness factor take over? So don't worry, I've got the 1000 FPS camera. That's another promise that's coming. I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna prove myself right or wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna make fun of myself. Doesn't matter. But it was all in my head, placebo. But kind of doubt that it's placebo. I doubt it. Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Anyway,
I just think it's worth pointing out that as wonderful a deal Ryzen is,
yeah.
the average gamer is still rocking a 3 to 5 year old 4-core processor with a 3-year old graphics card, and frankly doing just fine with it.
Well, that was the interesting thing. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing the X5675. It's gonna stick it to these two brand new 6 cores. I know it is, because I've already compared it to the 8700K. But of course, people want to see if the X5675 can actually beat the Ryzen 5 2600. That's one of the biggest scenarios people want to see. I'm going to test that very soon. That's going to be very interesting. So anyway,
Can I make a prediction before you do it?
yeah,
Benchmarks will look great, but I wouldn't trade a Ryzen 5 2600X for it because there's too many things missing on it in terms of a modern platform for my personal tastes. I do think that from a no, the lack of PCI Express 3 isn't the end of the world. The USB 3, you can always add a card. The DDR3 versus 4 RAM, but the DMI link. Wait, actually, that's on a QPI, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
That's not even. My concern is that the platform is so old that even with overclocking, the benchmarks look great, but day to day, I mean, I still have on an Asus P6T my i7 920, and it's overclocked.
What'd you get it
But
to?
man, I tell you something, the benchmarks look great, but I can feel the difference.
Okay, so where can you? Okay, so back to this. So this sort of correlates. Oh, sorry, no, this ties in with the snappiness argument. You can feel the difference. Where can you feel the difference? We've got to explore this a little
Using
bit.
using Windows, launching programs, task switching. And I've got a Samsung 840 SSD in there. It's not like I've running on a hard drive or anything.
Yeah.
It's uh, if you try to do more, once you're in a game and you're playing a game, it's fine. The actual in-game experience is good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to multitask in Windows running Chrome on it. How's that?
Okay, fair enough. So, what
I
speed
wouldn't
did
want
you
to
get
use
him
it
up
as a
to?
business machine at this point, but it's a fine gaming machine.
So, what speeds did you get? What speeds did you get him up to? And also, what's his name?
What?
This Xeon. Hey, every Xeon has a soul. What is your X5670?
It doesn't have a name.
What? Dude, you got to name your Xeon. X5675. What's his name? Oh, Nicholas. Oh, thanks, dude. Sorry, I will. Yeah, check DMs on Twitter. Sorry, man.
I'll have to come up with a name.
Okay. My name's
I'll
Westy.
let you name him.
Okay.
Is it a him or her?
It's a him.
Oh, it's a him.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Wawa. So I got Jar Jar here, and we'll call him Wawa.
You're killing me, man.
Wawa Kinks. That's your Xeon's
All
name?
I can say is that CPU performance is not what holds back most games. I mean, if you run gaming benchmarks and you compare the Ryzen 5 2600 to the old Xenons,
Yeah.
if with modern graphics cards, you're going to be fine.
I know, but if we do get a victory, if we can score a victory on the X5675 in a game, even if it's a benchmark, if we score a legit victory, I'll do a dance in that video. I mean, dude, it's that old. Ryzen 5 2600 is that new, and I'm going to be overclocking them both. There's going to be no excuses. So 4.5 gigahertz versus 4.2, Westmere versus Ryzen. It's going down. And then we're going to throw in the 8400 as well. If we can beat the 8400, I'll do jumping jacks off my table.
All right, let me offer a stipulation.
Yep.
Adjust the performance to both chips' original price.
Original
You cannot
price.
use the current price. It's not fair.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay.
Well, you can do it both ways, but here's why I say that. That performance existed back then, but how much did those Xenons cost back then? Because they were not $199.
They're like $1,400, and that's what makes them so good. Because it's like people are selling them for $30 now. You just feel
Right,
like
but my point is you couldn't buy that level of performance for $200 back then. What's amazing about Ryzen is not just its raw performance, but it's what that performance costs. That's so amazing.
But for me, when I buy that Xeon, okay, you're right. Like, you are right. It's what it costs at the time right now. But when you buy that Xeon for $30, like, immediate thought comes to my head, like, hey, someone just lost $1,370 and I just picked that up for $30. Like, it doesn't make you feel a little bit like, yeah, I got a even better than the deal that I got, because someone's lost all that money in this CPU when they first bought it. Now I'm buying it for this price, winning.
Yes, but only so many people can do that because only so many of those chips exist. It's sort of like the advice against buying a new car, because if you buy a car that's 3 years old, it's such a better deal.
Yeah.
But if everybody did that, there'd be no 3-year-old cars to buy.
Exactly. Yeah. True. Okay.
All I'm saying is those deals on Xenons exist because Intel had such a ridiculously good CPU X number of years ago, sold them for a lot of money. They were sold for servers and workstations. They've been used, and now they're cheap as chips because all those machines have been retired. But here's an interesting question. How many of those x56 chips do you think exist in the wild?
Sorry, we just got a donation as well. Check the esports
Sure.
case. I will. Sorry, say that question again.
How many of those x56 Xenons exist in the wild to be bought? Like, let's say, for
X50,
example, all the big YouTubers were to immediately tomorrow go out and do exactly what you're describing and do an x56 versus Ryzen 5 comparison. and immediately cause a rush on the chips on eBay, besides the fact that the price would then be run up,
It's not the CPUs.
would the available stock be run dry?
It's the motherboards that's the problem. It always has been with X58. Motherboards are always going to be so hard to snap up at good deals. Japan's full of them though. If you know someone in Japan or you're in Japan, you can pick up X58 boards for like under $100, and that's where it all began for me. In Australia, they come up from time to time. People just sell their old computers and don't know what's in them, and you get an X58 board out of that. I would recommend, instead of looking for an X58 motherboard, look for a PC that's 8 years old and someone doesn't want it anymore. And then just sort of check from the pictures. If you see 6 RAM slots, bang, like you're getting that deal. Go get it ASAP. It'll probably have RAM in it, a hard drive, power supply, most likely a good power supply.
And they'll probably sell it for $100.
Yeah. And so that's where you get the deals from X58. So the problem is there's countless Xeons available because they're all put in these server Dell motherboards, dual slot motherboards and whatnot. And all those motherboards are useless because you can't overclock on them. So you've just got this influx of Xeon chips that far outweigh the number of X58 motherboards. But also we did get a question quickly about the 6 cores, 6 threads, and do we think it's too late? No, I think the 8400 is... I really like it. I'm going to say why I really like it. Full load, it uses... like full load on 964, just the CPU. It uses 60 watts or something. It's ridiculously low in its power consumption for what it is. Now you couple that with the GTX 1060, there's going to be absolutely no difference between that and a GTX 1060 on an 8700K overclocked. So it's a real relevant CPU, I think, for a few more years, for 2 more years at least. The problem is at the moment Intel's not really making a compelling option for people to buy their platforms because their platforms just simply don't carry over. They're not upgradable. If you bought a B350 motherboard with a Ryzen 5, Ryzen 3, even 1200, you're in a really good spot. You've got that 7 nanometer to look forward to. The problem is, like, I'm going to be doing a comparison later where we're doing cheap motherboards and whatnot, but one of my recommendations is going to be B350. It's so relevant. It's so good. But what do you think with the 6-core, 6-threaded 8400?
I think it's obsolete the day you bought it.
Really? Okay, elaborate for me.
I think it is but a speed bump on the way to 12 and 16 threads becoming normal for mid-range to enthusiast machines. I think the 6-core, 6-thread chip is equivalent to the old Athlon X3s when they tried the tri-core chips and the whole market just ran flat right over them in a year. And I think that, yes, you absolutely can buy an i5 8400 today and use it for the next 18 to 24 months, and it's fine, but it will age poorly. I realize that I fully acknowledge that from a benchmarking and gaming point of view, an i5 8400 is generally going to be faster than a Ryzen 5 1600. But I think that the 6 cores, 12 threads of the Ryzen 5s will age ever so more gracefully. Both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are 8-core, 8-thread chips. And the rumors are that the PlayStation 5 may even be coming either this Christmas or next year with Zen cores in it. And if that's the case, and it has an 8-core, 16-thread chip, most PC high-end game development is on consoles these days now that they share. And we're starting to see more multi-threaded use because of those consoles. If we actually get a PlayStation 5 in the next 18 months that has an 8-core, 16-thread Zen core in it, I think you're going to find 6 threads to be wholly inadequate Christmas of 2019 for the games. Now, obviously, that's just a prediction. I could be flat wrong, but if you're spending $100+ on a motherboard, $180 on a CPU, if you're building a nice mid-range system, which is an i5 8400, I think 18 months from now, Christmas of 2019, I think you're really going to notice the lack of threads at that point. No, it's not an issue today, but that's just my opinion.
Can I just bump you off with a quick question? So he got an 8700 non-K anyway. So my thing is, have you always been an i5 or an i7 guy though? That's the thing. I've always been the i5 guy. Like when I've gone back to I've been on like an i5 750 or an i5 2500K or an i5 3570K. I've always bought the i5 option as opposed to the i7 option. Just out of curiosity, have you always been an i7 guy or an i5 guy?
I have been both, and one of the biggest mistakes that I ever did is I went from an i7 920 to an i5 2500K, thinking games at the time back in Sandy Bridge didn't need the extra threads and it would be fine. And 2 years after I bought the i5 2500K, I was really even feeling it back then. Now, some of that is not gaming, some of that is also productivity work. But I should have done an i7 2600K, and if I had done so, I mentioned before that I have both an i7 4770K and an i7 4790K, both of which, by the way, were bought before I had a YouTube channel. Those were bought from my previous work, and I did an early upgrade to the 4770 because I was noticing the lack of threads, and I was like, I that was one of the biggest regrets that I ever made was I went down from an i7 to an i5 thinking, do I really? It's there because I'm thinking, well, they're both 4-core chips, so the hyperthreading is nice, but those aren't real cores. Does it really matter? Ever since then, my attitude has been, if you have the money, buy everything you can because you'll grow into it if nothing else. 2 years ago in the summer of 2016, I was making videos along the lines of, do you buy i7 6700K or i7 6800K, the Broadwell E? And I was comparing the price of the board and chip, and it was about $150 price premium to do a 6800K versus a 6700 in 2016. Obviously, this was like 8 months before Ryzen came out. So my argument at the time was, if you're building an i7, if you're going premium, if you're going to do something nice, $150 more gets you 50% more cores and threads. Had you done that, you could have skipped Ryzen 1, Ryzen 2, Coffee Lake. I mean, if you're running a 6800K today that you built 2 years ago, you're still good. You're still golden. No, the clock speed's not quite as high, but it'll do 4.0, 4.2. And unless you need 144 hertz gaming, it's fine. So the reason I built that for my channel was because 4K video editing on a 4-core processor, even an i7, is kind of rough. And it's much smoother in Adobe Premiere Pro to scrub video. Now, here's the funny part. When I built my i7 4770K, what was the enthusiast chip at the time? Ivy Bridge E.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the i7 4770K, if I had done Ivy Bridge E back then, which also would have only been about $150-ish more, I could have skipped my Broadwell E build, and I actually could have had a machine that would still be good today.
Indeed.
So if you're on a budget, I get it. If you're on a budget, you only have the money you have. But if you've got the money, my opinion, buy the max you can afford, because even if you don't use it today, what is the ultimate value for the money? I mean, people have criticized me because when the 1080 Ti first came out and I did benchmarks, I said, if you've got the money, buy this even if you're playing at 1080p. And a bunch of people are like, that's ridiculous, a $700 card for 1080p. I said, yes, but you'll have it for the next 3 to 5 years, and you can skip the next 3 graphics card upgrades versus buying a $250 card every other year. Sorry for the long rant. I mean, this is just a subject that's near and dear to me, is the idea that buy the most you can afford, it will last longer.
I mean, that's what I mean. That's where we differ, I think. Because, like, for me, I've always loved.
Sorry.
I just like changing hardware, like I change underwear. You know, you see my mini ITX. Oh yeah, Brian's got a new mini ITX rig. He's changed from this one to this one. Oh, Brian's rig's changing again. I love changing hardware, man. I don't know what it is. And so I think the biggest regret you would have was getting rid of that X58 board, personally. But one thing I do want to know is, because I gamed on i5s up until, like 2016. I never had a problem. Like, I don't know, man. What is this sort of like, and I noticed you've singled out Ghost Recons. Like, do you like seek games that just utilize all the cores and threads?
I've beaten Ghost Recon. That's a fun game.
It's just I don't know. I've never had a problem on the 4-core 4 threads. I honestly think 4 cores 4 threads, especially for like mainstream titles like Fortnites and the next Fortnite that'll come out, and the next Dota 2 that'll come out, I think 4 cores, 4 threads will be absolutely fine for those games for years to come. And the reason I've said this in the past is because a lot of the third world Asian countries, those net cafes, if you've ever been to one, they're just packed with like dirt cheap computers. And they want, see, the game developers desperately want those people playing their games. And if they can't, then they're not going to play them. So there's a big thing going forward why I think 4 cores, 4 threads will still be relevant for mainstream titles. Of course, the demanding titles will be utilizing more cores, 4 threads. More cores, more threads. I said 4 threads. But yeah, I don't know. I've always played like Heroes Newer, Dota 2, FPS games, even the Black Ops series. I never had a problem on 4 cores, 4 threads.
I think we differ. We differ in what we call mainstream. See, I would not call Fortnite and Dota 2 to be mainstream titles.
Really?
I would consider those to be esports or to be casuals.
Okay.
They're free to play. Now,
Yeah.
I am not saying that means they're not played by millions and millions of people.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, you're correct. There's a category of game, Fortnite, Dota 2, League of Legends, CSGO, Rainbow Six Siege, which are playable on mid-range to low-range potato computers because they've got millions and millions of people playing them.
Yeah.
I would completely agree with you that games that will play on 4-core, 4-thread chips will continue to be popular for years and years to come for exactly the reasons that you said. And frankly, a Ryzen 3 2200G or a Ryzen 5 2400G is perfect for those kind of games. Well, actually not well, the integrated graphics is kind of rough on Fortnite. I've done that, and it's you want a better graphics card than that.
Yeah.
But putting that issue aside, for the cores and threads, that's fine. But when I think mainstream game, and perhaps this is just my thinking, I'm thinking Battlefield 1, for example, multiplayer, 64-player multiplayer in Battlefield 1 on a 4-core, 4-thread chip is an awful experience. I know that. I can tell you that it's choppy and rough. The difference between an i5 and an i7 on Battlefield 1 multiplayer is dramatic and noticeable. But here's the funny thing. If you benchmark it, it doesn't show up in the benchmark unless you frame time it, because the graphics card has no problem displaying the frames, but the CPU can't keep up with the game engine, so to speak.
Yeah, the number of cores.
So I guess I'm thinking Far Cry 5, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Battlefield 1, Battlefront 2. When I say i7, I'm thinking of those games.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're just talking about two different categories of games.
That's okay. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. Like for those sort of more heavier titles, definitely. It's just how many people are into the heavier titles. That's something I'd love to get some stats on. But also there was, okay, so do we want to move on to some of the topics as well? We've got to get through these topics. People are probably like, okay, what's going on here? You showed this slide before. Windows 10 is going on a diet, apparently. So we've got Windows 10 Lean, which is apparently going to be released. Well, it's coming very soon. And it's replacing Windows 10 S. So what do you think about this? I mean, Windows 10 S, I never even heard of it before you showed me this article. Do you want to tell us what Windows S is about? The S version?
Well, Windows 10 S was an attempt by Microsoft. S was supposed to mean secure or Windows 10 store. It was a version of Windows 10 that would be pre-installed on basic computers or appliance computers or low-end machines that you could not install your own programs and applications. The only programs that would run it was kind of like an iPad, so to speak. You could only download and install programs from the built-in Windows 10 store, and the idea was, well, it's secure because all apps are vetted by Microsoft. You would not be able to download and install your own programs. Well, you can imagine how well that went over.
It just sounds useless to anyone that I know. It's like, hey, Windows 10 store. It's like, some games I just don't buy them because they're only on the Windows 10 store. Like I just specifically just don't want to get them, so I just don't want to deal with the Windows 10 store. They tried to do this with Skype, Windows 10, make it like store only in an app, but there is a workaround for that. You just download the 8.3 version and then right click it, go properties, and then install it as Windows 7, and that's how you get around that. It's a little bit of a trick job. But it's the only way I know to get around it at the moment. So hopefully that helps a few people out there if they're having problems with that. But yeah, so this Windows 10s stuff, really wasn't. Sounds like, yeah, we haven't heard of it for a reason. But Windows 10 Lean, like, what are we? I mean, is it going to be okay? I mean, it just looks like the same thing, just rebranded.
It's basically it's 2 GB smaller in the installation, and it's missing the desktop wallpaper, registry editor, the MMC management console, and some other features. It is actually live on the Insider build at the moment, so you can actually download if you're on the test versions of Windows 10. It's available to download and install now. Exactly what the point is and who this is for. I mean, 2 GB of space these days. I mean, that's nice, but another version of Windows. I kind of miss back in the old days. Do you remember when you'd install older versions of Windows and you could actually choose what to install when you installed it?
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, I was going to say as well, it doesn't have it's still got the telemetry, I'm guessing, because they haven't mentioned anything about it. So, yeah, it's funny. No one, yeah, feels like Windows getting worse and worse, but no one bothers talking about it. But yeah, every time you do an update as well, like I think the big reason why have you noticed with Windows 10 too, they're releasing so many updates. Like, hey, we got anniversary update, anniversary fall update. Oh, there's another one coming, and like people are like, Brian, can you make another optimization guide? Brian, yo, can you make another? It's like, guys, I don't want to make an optimization guide every second week, and then just change it to Tech Yes Windows 10 optimization city.
If you really want to hear some Windows 10 rants, there's all I'll say is that Microsoft has different people running it these days than the old days, and they're trying to copy Apple with their always updating nonsense, and they're locking everything down, and I can't wait for real competition. I wish Apple was doing something with their Macs that would give us decent competition, but my understanding is that Mac OS is actually not in that great a shape either.
Yeah. And also on that note, can you name one game that runs better on DX12? I'm yet to find one.
No. None.
Yeah. Like, I remember I was running Ashes of the Singularity for the Ryzen benchmarks. It ran like crap. I think Vulkan ran like crap too. And I was just like, well, let's do the test in DX11. Ran the best out of all three. So I was just like, oh.
I don't want to be a tinfoil hat person, but let's talk about DirectX 12 for a second, because right around when DirectX 12 was coming out with Windows 10, what also was coming out? Now, Vulkan is the current name for, what was AMD's thing back then before they renamed it to Vulkan? What do they call it?
Mantle.
So there was Mantle, and then remember SteamOS, which seems to have disappeared?
Gone.
Right, but here's the thing. Microsoft came out with DirectX 12, and they were sort of like, well, gee, if Valve wants to create their own OS, then maybe Steam shouldn't run properly on Windows 10. And Valve was like, well, maybe we don't need to do that SteamOS. And Microsoft is like, well, maybe we don't need to interfere with Steam running on Windows 10 then.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me take my tinfoil hat off.
Hey, that's good. That's okay. We always love, actually, I think every week on the show, we're going to go into a conspiracy theory. People tell me, Brian, I love a good conspiracy theory. So you think there was a handshake with Steam and Windows. The Windows are like, look, you want to go make your OS, that's fine, but we'll give you a culling on Windows 10 if you do. And then they scratch their heads like, yeah, okay, what we'll do with SteamOS, we'll just quickly just let it sort of die down as a concept. Okay, you're fine. Windows 10, okay, it'll work fine. Don't worry, guys. Move along. Uplay and all that, they're still going to be irrelevant compared to Steam.
I bet you $1,000 that's exactly what happened.
I think
you're right. Floored if anything else other than that happened, because both sides had too much to lose, and both sides were like, let's just not have this fight.
This is like, guys, I think this is a conspiracy theory that is not like, it's getting some more traction. It's really big. That's it. When I look at this, when I just look at it, like, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. But I feel sorry for Steam, because they made those Steam controllers, SteamOS controller or something. People were like, I remember how quick, like, that's probably one of the biggest fads going through. Like, I remember there's just this Steam controller everywhere in my inbox and sub feed, and then just like a couple of days later, you'd never really heard about it.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Okay, why?
And then everybody stopped talking about, and then DirectX 12, which was the big threat,
Yeah.
It was the big thing that was going to knock Mantle and Vulkan down, and then you notice that DirectX 12 has become kind of nothing.
Yeah.
And you're right. I can't think of a single game that runs better on 12 than it does on 11. In fact, think there's actually a bunch of new games that have come out which don't have DirectX 12 support.
Yeah. That's true. Well, I was going to say too, like I've spoken to some people about previous Windows versions. We got a donation as well. Thank you for Linux, and they said Wine was the real reason. I'm guessing that's a Linux version. I don't really have any experience with Linux. Sorry.
Wine is a Windows emulator on Linux.
Uh,
It uses the native APIs to attempt to run native Windows executables on Linux.
okay, and he said that's the
It's hit
real
and miss.
reason. Okay. Interesting. So I just found it now. Windows 8.1's completely dead. 7's like dying. Service Pack 1, that's dying. Windows 10's taking over, and yet the big benefit of Windows 10 was DX12. You know, people like I myself, I'm guilty of saying it. Oh, guys, just jump on Windows 10. You got DX12 support. Yet there's just years later, there's not one game that runs better on DX12. It feels like it's a flop. And so I'd love to go back to 8.1 Pro. I loved 8.1 Pro when I had my custom start menu. Just felt better. It felt, there was no telemetry baked into it. It was just, for me, it was the real OS. I got used to it. I learned to appreciate the 8.1. Initially, I hated
Except now
8.1.
we have hardware that is not officially supported. I mean, Ryzen's not officially supported. Coffee Lake's not officially supported.
Yep. The list
And
goes on.
it's only going in that direct. I mean, it's if you want to buy the next generation graphics card and test things, it's I know there are people still running Windows 7, but realistically, how much longer can they keep doing that and upgrade their hardware?
Yep. I mean, I don't know. So, there's the Windows 10 thing. Windows 10. We got next article up here. And what do we got? Amazon key. So actually two more articles. We'll try and actually bang through them quicker. This show's running really long, but that's because, guys, the deals. Me and the deals. We got the hot topics. Okay.
I've been told I talk a lot.
It's a good thing. I love having a chat. It's awesome. Amazon key expand. Oh, sorry, I pull up the article. What am I doing? I'm off my game. Amazon key expands to deliver packages inside your car. So this is very interesting. When I looked at this article, you were telling me that Amazon now can get remote access to your house and your car and just put the packages in there and then lock it for you and bail. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about this
Yeah,
service? And how do you feel
Amazon.
about it too?
Well, this is me, but yeah, no. Thank you, but no. I've seen the quality of delivery drivers that Amazon has working for them. Not just no, but heck no. There's not even. In fact, I showed this actually earlier today. I showed this to my wife, and she just looked at me with the, "Oh yeah, I don't think so" look, um, because we get we get deliveries now. We live very close to an Amazon warehouse, so a bunch of our Amazon deliveries are already coming from their quote local courier service rather than UPS or FedEx. So we're already seeing what the Amazon delivery people look like. Amazon actually hires independent contractors like Uber people to drive their own personal cars. And let's just say, well, you don't have Walmart there in Australia, but do you know what Walmart is?
Yeah, I've been there, man.
Okay, it's that. You're getting that level of employee. Um,
Oh, so you're saying
and-
like, okay, so you got like, hey, I got my delivery today, but like all these other PC parts I bought down at Micro Center are missing. What? The delivery man's like, hey, I don't know what happened.
well, the funny thing is the way it works in the house, and this has been running for a number of months now. But the Amazon Key service for your house, the short version is you replace the lock to your front door with an electronic Wi-Fi lock that Amazon can unlock remotely. And then you install a camera inside your house that turns on when the driver gets there. So he gets there with his phone, he punches in the code, Amazon remotely unlocks the front door to your house. He can open the door, he can put the package inside your house, and there's a camera recording him, which you can either watch on your phone or watch the recording of later. And then he leaves, closing the door, and then the lock is relocked remotely by Amazon. The idea being, of course, is he's recorded, and so he can't come inside and touch all your stuff because they would be able to see that and obviously do something about it. Now, the flip side, of course, is he's now seen inside of your house, and so his buddy can come by a week later and find all your good stuff. But ignoring that detail, you aren't going to have a camera in your car for exactly the point that you made. The idea with the new car service is if you're at work, if you're out driving or somewhere, you can. It only works with currently Volvos and GM vehicles that have OnStar, but your vehicle could be parked at work. You could order something for like 2 hour delivery. And instead of coming to your house, the Amazon driver would drive to wherever your car is because your car has GPS and so he can track your car. Oh boy, there's a wonderful idea. But yes, so he can see where your car is. And this $10 an hour contractor drives to your car, pushes a button, your car is remotely unlocked, and he can either put it in your back seat or your trunk and then close it, and then it relocks, and then he leaves, and you're not even there.
Oh,
Yeah, I told my wife about this, and let's just say
yeah, I completely agree, man. It's like, okay, there'd be some loopholes. Guy puts on a ski mask. It wasn't me delivering the package. I just got beat up down the street, and then like I could just imagine the amount of excuses these guys could pull, and just
even if Amazon says, "Oh, but we'll be responsible," you know what? It's my home and my car, and I don't
mm,
want anybody in it when I'm not there.
well,
I
especially
don't
knowing
rent
you
my
don't
car out.
know.
I don't rent my house
Yeah.
out. No,
Mm.
but people are doing it. The funny thing is, we were out for a walk today, and my wife looked at me and said, "You know, our kids are going to do this when they get older, and they're going to look at us and think we're as old-fashioned as our parents who don't use email."
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Ugh,
Is
I
there
don't know.
anybody in the audience who's okay with this? I'm curious to ask
Yeah,
chat. Is there anybody who thinks this is a good? Are we crazy? Do you like this plan?
that's it's actually the last article. So oh no, we got the 970 Evo, but maybe we should just cut that short and go to chat. We can talk about the Evo next week. Um,
The Evos of 60-second conversation anyway.
okay. Okay, I'll try and.
Oh, I see chat is scrolling pretty quick now.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's go. So we'll quickly cover the Evo and then we'll get to chat here. So 970 Evo has been at Anandtech. They've looks like they're the first to publish a result here. I mean, if someone else was under NDA, technically they'd still be under NDA and strict NDA. But got some numbers here for the new drive here from Anandtech. They got the numbers up. 970 Evo, it doesn't look that impressive, especially compared to the 960 Evo. Except this like latency benchmark, which is weird. I don't know how the Evo's fallen that far behind, but it's a 250 gig version there. So
The
970.
biggest jump from looking over the article that I see from Anandtech is that the write endurance is supposed to be higher. The capacities there's now a 2 terabyte version of the M.2 drive, whereas the 960 EVO only had a 1 terabyte M.2 version,
Yep.
and the warranty is 5 years on the EVO.
Mm. So
Um,
do you think this is impressive, the 970 Evo? I mean, from what you see with this, I just think it's a good.
no,
I
I
think
think
it's
this is a
just
product that saves them money because they're using the new 64 layer 3D NAND, and so it allows them to make the NAND for less money. I would buy a 960 EVO over this if it were cheaper.
okay. Yeah, I
In
just
fact,
think
for that matter, I
yeah.
would buy an 80 SX 6000 because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like these are good. Like sure, these improvements and maybe a nerf when you look at that NAND that's going in there. But that's what I was gonna say. In these benchmarks from Anandtech, why don't I see the budget boys here ringing true? Like where's the A data? Where's the especially the A data and the what's the Z280 I reviewed on the channel. That's a value for money play when it comes to an NVMe PCIe solution M.2. Where are these options? Because they're
You know,
phenomenal.
where's the Western Digital Blacks? Oh
Yeah,
no, there it is. There it is. I saw it.
but there's
And they
these.
do have the
Yeah,
yeah, but they don't have the A data drives. That's a huge miss.
and even I mean for me personally, even the Corsair MP500s, they go on sale and they're really competitive too. They go down to competitive prices, and I've reviewed all of them, and they're good. They're solid. They're phenomenal. I think they've all got the Phison controller on board, so it's not a huge difference. the biggest thing with SSDs, and that's why a lot of people say when I go to a NVMe storage device, I don't notice a difference. The biggest thing is the 4K random read and writes, and I've been harping on about this for a long time now. They're not improving that much. When I did see a massive improvement was NVMe RAID 0 with the write, I forgot what I set it to, the cache write back. And it made it unstable, but the 4K read and writes, they doubled, and that was phenomenal. But the 970 Evo, it just looks like another release. It's, yeah, solid. It looks like it'll be good value for money, but not as good value. Like, I think there's some other options out there that are really good value for money. They don't get mentioned enough.
Well, I still think the average person is fine with a SATA SSD as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. For me, it's...
Especially if you're paying less per gigabyte, it means you can get a bigger drive.
Yeah, well, for me, the scratch drive thing, it does help. Like, when I'm editing videos, people are saying, dude, you do your whole channel single-handedly. And it's like, yeah, it's a one-man band at the moment. And the reason I get things out is because I've got the 8700K overclocked. I've got NVMe storage. They're just little things that help with the whole flow. Saving time. Got a lot of presets in Premiere Pro as well. Just go bang, flick in the effect, and you just, getting the whole workflow done. But let's move over now. Do you want to move over now to chat? What's chat's cracking? What's chacking with what's chacking with crack?
Chat had a lot to say about, in fact, if I scroll back up,
yeah.
Chat had to do, I will make one comment. Somebody in chat specifically called my name out and said that he bought a 960 Pro based upon my advice. The one thing I will say about the Pro drives versus the Evos for anybody watching right now is that as good as the Evo drives from Samsung are, there's still tri-level cell TLC drives with SLC cache. And once you fill the cache, if you are a heavy professional user, the speed falls off a cliff. The benefit to the Pro drive, as expensive as it is it can maintain full write speed for the entire length of the drive because they're MLC drives.
Yeah.
And I use a Pro drive in my main box for that exact reason, is I never have to worry about saturating its SLC cache because it didn't have one.
That's the thing though. I think I have to go back through memory lane though. I have used some select few TLC drives that have not slowed down, like after at least 100 gig transfer, which is massive. I haven't done a terabyte. How big were they? I think it was the Crucial MX300 perhaps. Did that use TLC?
That's a TLC drive with an SLC cache, yes.
Off the top of my memory, that didn't slow down after a massive file transfer. So I'd have to
I'd have to go back and look and see how big it is. I want to say the 960 500 gig drive Evo has I think it's a 32 gig. It's either 32 or 64 gig SLC cache. The average person is never going to run into it. But if you move around 100 gigs worth of files on a regular basis, or you are running multiple VMs, or you're doing heavy timeline edits, pulling from multiple sources, of course that's reading, not writing. You got to be a pretty heavy user.
Yeah, that's true.
To saturate. Here's the other reason you buy the Pro drive: double the write endurance. Okay. 800 terabytes written versus 400 on the 500 gig drive. I think I'm going from memory. Okay, anyway, I only wanted to mention it because somebody in chat specifically called my name and said that he bought the Pro drive, and I just wanted to mention there is a difference with the Pro drive, and it's not performance. Anyway. Okay. Back to chat. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We got asked a few questions, except they're just scrolling so fast. Okay. Sorry, guys. This is probably the worst Q&A now. Moving over. Okay, so the chat looks like they're keeping themselves entertained anyway, so that's a good thing. So perhaps we can roll down the show a little bit.
You had a donation. Hang on, you had a donation a while ago where Britt the Master said Amazon is like that crazy girlfriend that wants your password.
Yeah, I've got some funny stories about that. I'd probably save that for the patron chat.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, with the X and stuff like that. Anyway, okay, what's a good deal for a Core i7 2600K? 2600K is a nice chip, but when you looked at when I went to Japan, for example, that's when I bought the 3770K. I got that for $100, and that's sort of what I'm prepared to pay for it, because you can get them in sort of like, I call them just giveaway PCs, where people just don't sell them for a dirt cheap price, and it's got a 3770K in it. That's what I'd value it at 3770K at, $100 for me. That's what I'm willing to pay for one. 2600K, like maybe $80. That's the thing. On AliExpress, they're more expensive at the moment, which is why I hands down go for those Xeons, the X3440s. They're $15. Overclock them, and you get a great experience. Even up to like a 1060, you're not going to notice a difference really. So the 2600K is a nice CPU. It's just I think people charge too much for it. So me personally, I just don't buy them at retail or whatever. I don't really look for them because no one sells them individually, and if they do, they ask like 130, 140 bucks for them. It's like, it's not worth it. But yeah, mind you, when I go back to Japan, when that happens, I'm going to be going ham, man. I'll probably even buy another suitcase, just 2 suitcases, used parts, in she goes. Away we go. So moving back to chat, what other good, maybe you can, if you want to line up some good questions, what would you pay for 2600K too?
Well, the thing with the 2600K is, do you have a motherboard for it? Because my bigger concern is the motherboard, not the chip. So are you saying that you already have a motherboard, or are you saying you have to buy one?
You'd have to get a motherboard, but you can get the Z67s off Ali. They actually are pretty well priced. I think you can get one for like, I didn't even know last time I checked. Z67 was like $60 maybe. It's not too bad. 55
for a good one.
No, for a decent. I mean, for one that'll overclock to a sweet spot, like 4.5, 4.6, I think it'll do. The old school boards. That's one thing about the old school motherboards that the new school doesn't really get right. The old school, I've got a H55 gigabyte in that pickup I just got on the weekend. You look at the VRM, that's like exactly like the P55, except it doesn't have a heatsink on it. That's what the older quality just had. It had, even the cheaper options had solid VRMs that were good to go. And that's something that I miss. The new school's like, you get VRM throttling, and it's just sad. It sucks. So, and yeah, overclocking's completely out of the picture. So back in the day, it was really good because of that. They were over-designed. Components were cheap, and admittedly, components were cheap too. Prices of minerals have gone through the roof since those days. And so, yeah, VRMs now actually cost money to make. Proper VRM designs. So, anyway.
Somebody just asked if an i5 4670K is a good CPU for 1080p.
4570K? 4670K?
A 4670K, yeah. Sorry. A 4670K.
Yeah, that was one, like, I had the 4670K when it was first released. It was a beast, man. I liked it. Of course, Tech Deals, he done like 4 cores. So. Well,
you can give me a hard time about that if you want. It's.
You and Adored TV would get along really well, from what I gather.
I'm sorry, what?
You and Adored TV, the Scotsman, Jim.
Oh.
You'd get along mighty fine.
All I know is that with stuff that old, I don't mind playing around with the different CPU choices because I've owned all those boards since new. My P6T X58, my Z68 board, I've had all those boards from day one, and so I know how they were treated. I know how they were taken care of. I would be... my mindset is also probably different coming from the corporate IT world where reliability and dependability is everything. Yeah. If my system is not 100% stable, it's useless. And so my viewpoint on these sort of things is, if I get a used motherboard off of eBay and I get a used CPU off of eBay and I have a system that's stable 97% of the time, I consider that to be a bad system. But that's also because I spent 15 years managing and building systems for companies where all that mattered was 24/7 reliability. If it crashed, it was useless. So that's where my thinking comes from.
Yeah. I know. My thinking is just straight up.
I also made a living off of getting companies to replace everything every 3 years, so
Yeah, my thinking comes from just, I've been a guy who was PC gaming since Warcraft 2, and then I just got into like value for money and that's why the used price performance is just really kicking at the moment. That's why. So we got a donation. But sorry guys, that's probably got a little bit greedy, but it's probably the best way to get a question through. Oh, did you get that question? Just flick through. Man, this chat is cracking way too hard. It's something about a 290X. 290X with the reference cooler, it gets very hot. They're like 90 degrees. And I'm not comfortable with having a graphics card in my computer that runs at 90 degrees day in, day out. I'd much rather go for the R9 290, which is a little bit cut down, but it also uses a little bit less power. And so I've just bought 2 of them. So I've got 2 R9 290s. I think I'm getting that deal as well. Just got a friend to pick it up in Brisbane. So there's 2 R9 290s that I'm going to put in builds. So I'd go for the R9 290, and I'm paying about 150 Australian dollars for it, which is like 115, 120 US. That's the max I'd pay for it. I mean, that's what I mean. People like critique me on my used GPU guide, but that's just what I'd pay. It's nothing about market rates. I mean, you want market rates, go pay market rates. That's why market rates exist. You want a deal, go get a deal. So
just as a heads up, I think he was asking. He's not asking should he buy an R9 290X. He's saying if he has an R9 290X, what should he upgrade to?
My bad. Okay. That's actually, sorry, completely sorry, but hey, that was a good chat anyway, right?
It's just fine.
If he has a 290X, I would upgrade. I'd wait for the 1180. Like, it's seriously coming. It seriously is coming. It's a refresh. It's got to come soon. Otherwise, NVIDIA can't push out another refresh when Navi comes out, for example. 1180, this rumor really makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I'd just wait for the 1180, pre-order it like Tech Deals said, because the crypto miners will be all over it. And happy days, man. What do you think?
I think that if the temperature and the VRAM does not bother you, the 290X evolved into the 390X. I mean, the 290X has 4 gigs of VRAM. If you're playing at 1080p and you're willing to mess around with a few detail settings, I think I'd agree with you. The 290X, because that's really what, about RX 480 speeds, give or take, a 290X.
Sorry, so which is it again? 290X is what speeds?
The 290X is roughly RX 480 speeds.
RX 470. 290X, yeah, would be around 480, 470, somewhere in between.
If you're at 1080p, you don't need an upgrade.
No, not at all.
Here's the funny thing. If you'd bought an R9 290X at launch, how many years of value have you gotten out of that card?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it runs hot on the reference cooler. I mean, sure, but you've gotten a lot of years of use out of that card.
Do you reckon he needs to take out life insurance, though, just in case it blows up?
I actually had, don't laugh, I had the R9 295X2. Do you remember that one?
The R9 290X2. Wow. Like, you could feel the heat coming off that thing. Yeah, that's what I've heard stories of.
That was that liquid-cooled Crossfire on a card, ridiculously expensive, although I got a deal on it, of course. It launched at $1,500. I paid $650 because I got it like 9 months later. Newegg had a deal, and it was stupid cheap. Here's the thing. When Crossfire worked, it was amazing. But that was back in the days. Do you remember the frame pacing and stuttering issues with Crossfire?
Oh, you betcha, man. That's like ingrained into my brain because I went through those days way back when I was World of Warcraft. Like, I played that game religiously. There was this big argument going on in the World of Warcraft community. Don't buy an AMD card because they stutter. They suck. That was the argument. And I was an AMD fanboy at the time, so I was like, rah, value for money. You know, there was always that. Like, the fanboy wars, I think, used to be worse than they are nowadays. They were getting I was a rabid AMD fanboy back in the day, and there was rabid Nvidia fanboys, rabid AMD fanboys. So Nvidia fanboys were spawned from World of Warcraft, and that's when I saw the light when my friend let me play World of Warcraft on his Nvidia graphics card. I saw the light. I was like, I couldn't deny it. We had our computers side by side, jumped on his computer, and I noticed it. It was like, wow, this is stutter
It
free.
was clear and
Yes.
obvious the
Yeah.
difference.
And that stage I knew I was a fanboy, but at that time I was angry. I felt betrayed by AMD. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, what was AMD at the time? They just changed from ATI to AMD. But I felt betrayed. I was like, there's something. And then ever since that day, I was a believer in the stuttering and the frame pacing. And then I think it was PC Perspective and other sites, the Tech Report, they came out with proof. And that was a shocker. That was a real shocker. And the good thing that came out of that was placebo. People thought it was placebo, but it was rumors and opinions that caused the objective testing, which then made the improvements, and AMD overhauled their drivers, and it was all fixed. So it was good.
Well, the interesting thing is I replaced my 295X2 with the 980 Ti the day the 980 Ti came out.
Mm-hmm.
And objectively, if you have a game that supports Crossfire, a 295X2 is faster than a 980 Ti.
Yeah.
But I was never a World of Warcraft player, but I played Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah.
And the smoothness and the change in how well the game ran on the NVIDIA card.
Oh, yeah. You were like,
To be honest, my
Yeah.
main machines have never had an AMD card since because
that's
AMD
me
cards,
too, man. That's me
AMD
too.
cards are theoretically faster in raw compute, in mining, in mathematical compute, in FP32. AMD cards are superior, but NVIDIA cards are a better gaming experience.
So Star
Although
Wars.
I will say that the RX 480 580s were pretty good.
Oh,
I mean,
they were good. I love
they
them.
AMD has improved a lot of things. Here's what I will give AMD credit for. What AMD does for the size of their R&D budget versus Intel and NVIDIA's R&D budget
Yeah,
is incredible.
that's true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The value they get for how little money they actually have is pretty cool.
Yeah, but
But-
but that moment when you changed to the 980 Ti, did you feel liberated? Was there like
No regrets.
did Gaben come down to you and just say, you have been liberated, my son?
It was a million times the right decision, even with the performance loss in certain applications. There were some games in a few places where I noticed it was slower, but the question is, do you want faster and choppy or slower and smooth?
Oh, slower and smooth any day of the week, any day. That was the big argument back in World of Warcraft. So I remember I tried that NVIDIA card, and then after that, booked up my GTX 670 and never looked back. Never looked back, man. I've been like using NVIDIA in my main rigs ever since Kepler and never looked back.
Somebody in chat has a question for you.
Yep.
Would you replace an i7 920 these days or stick with it for gaming only?
Oh my god, replace it with a Xeon. It's the cheapest upgrade. I'll bang after this stream's finished, I'll put a link in the description specifically for the guy with the 920. You just have to get rid of that. So should I replace thermal paste on a new 1050 Ti? Actually, great question. No, like a new 1050 Ti should be fine. If just run a benchmark on it, should be getting under 60 degrees. 1050 Ti shouldn't go that hot at all. If it's going into 70s, definitely replace the thermal paste. Something's wrong. If it's been mined on, even if it's a few months mining, if you buy a card that's been mined on, replace the thermal paste regardless. With my experiments I did, some of the cards were okay, but some of the cards, you took them off the mining bench, even though they were fine on the mining bench, as soon as you took them off, they started running hot. So the thermal paste must have contracted or lost its viscosity or something happened. Maybe someone who's technical about that can elaborate why, but the thermal paste was shot after they got off the mining bench. So that's one thing. If you buy a card that's been used for mining, you might get it for a really good deal, but do replace the thermal paste.
Are you finding, this question is for you, are you finding used graphics cards cheap enough to be worth buying versus new?
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I'm calling, like, you watch the used parts hunt, man, I'm getting them deals. I mean, they're getting less and less because there's a lot more. Like, I know guys on the coast now. There's Kev. He's running around. He's hunting deals. He's on his game. And I got respect for him, man. Like, I don't hate him or anything. They're hustling, man. But yeah, there's a lot more guys looking for deals now. And one guy was mad in the comments on that used parts hunt. He's like, thanks to guys like you, Brian, I can't get my used parts at a good price. It's like, It's like, hey man, I gotta eat, bro. So
Why just I'm sitting, I mean it's are, would you buy a 1070 or 1080 used, or were you
oh
talking
yeah,
about 970s and
I'd buy
980s?
I'd buy anything used, man. I'd buy anything used. That's just me. I just yeah. I think a lot of people, because I came from Japan, like I lived in Japan for a while, where their mentality with used stuff, put it this way, a lot of my savings, money that I've saved, has been from that mentality where people think used products are no longer good and they've just got rid of them. Back in Japan, I mingled with car parts, and there's another guy I'd love to meet. There's a guy over there. One of my friends was telling me there was a guy who used to do car parts as well. I really want to meet him because apparently he's doing video work in Tokyo now. And yeah, there was just this. I grew up flipping things. I like flipping things. I like turning trash into treasure. And in Japan, it's a gold mine because they've got this mentality that used is just terrible. Anything used is just trash. And so you'll get, like, it's weird. It's a real weird dilemma in Japan. You've got these guys living in total shoe boxes. Like, their houses are terrible. They look disgusting. Yet they've got a brand new Skyline GTR out the front, R35, sitting out the driveway. I'm just like, I'm scratching my head. It's like, man, your house probably got wind leaking in it and all sorts of crap. In a typhoon, the house would probably shake and it'd just be a nightmare living in that house. But you got this brand new car. And some of their mentality is just like new. You have to get everything new. And then they go out and like literally overpay for a brand new house. Used houses over there, if you spent like, a couple of months renovating, you could get a used house, bring it up for like 100 grand. But no, you got to go out and pay 400 grand for a brand new home. Lock that 35-year sucker loan in. Hey, I'm done with life. That's me. So I don't know. Sort of, yeah.
Would you pay? Let me give you a specific then.
Okay.
Would you pay $200
Yeah.
delivered for a used mid-level GTX 970
US.
versus yeah, we're talking US here because
Okay.
I'm looking at eBay. Would
Yeah.
you pay $200 delivered for a mid-level, like an EVGA superclocked, for example, 970 versus 250 for a brand new 1063 gig card?
Yeah, I think you know the answer to that. I'd be paying like 130 for that 970. And if I didn't get it, I wouldn't buy it. Let it sit there on the market.
Because the cheapest working 970 on eBay for buy it now at the moment is $195 delivered.
Has he got
That's
international
too much.
postage?
I'm sorry?
Has he got international postage enabled? He's probably trying to hawk it to someone overseas. And if it's $30, $40 postage, someone in a remote area or someone in Europe will probably snap that up. That's what he's sitting on. Local?
I guess because what I'm thinking is if I could find a GTX 970 for under 150, I'd
Well,
be
you will.
interested,
Yeah, you
but
will.
not on eBay.
I mean, I actually haven't got one yet that I've got for a good price. I've got a lot of 780s, a lot of 780 Ti's, a lot of R9 290s for really good prices. Haven't yet to pick. Like, I've been offering, around about 200 Australian for a 970. Yes, around about 150 price point. That's the max I'll go. Because again, that argument you state. Why would I pay any more when you can go out and get the brand new 1060 that's more efficient? It's going to just be better. Like, why would you bother? You need to, you can therefore use a lower rated power supply. That's another big benefit. So yeah, I mean, the whole use thing's relative to what's new, and that's why I like the GPU market, because we're getting improvements. We're seeing these new cards that are coming out, and they're hitting so hard for value for money, and they're just bringing the price right down on these used graphics cards. And there's another thing as well, since the old CPUs are still so relevant, we've just got a market that's flourishing for used price performance. So, absolutely flourishing. I like that word. Did you have a flourishing day?
I had a flourishing day. I spent 4.5 hours editing an unboxing video.
Okay. Someone asked $200 980 Ti or $400 1070. $200 980 Ti. That's a big one. That's an easy win. So, And perhaps we should maybe wrap up the show. I don't know how long we've gone for. I feel like we've gone for ages. Like, this is huge, but I mean, the viewers, like the live viewers is over 500, so clearly people are loving this live stream. I'm loving it. Tech Deals is the man.
Do you want to briefly mention that last article that I sent you about TSMC?
Okay, I will just check right now. TSMC.
I think I sent that to you.
You did indeed, is it? No, you didn't. You got to hit me up on Twitter. If you hit me up on Skype, your window's going to go pew. It's going to be all poppy. It's going to flub off. I'm getting it now.
There you go.
Okay, cool. TSMC kicks off volume production. Let's just give this is a bonus article. Look at this. People are ready to go. And Tech Deals did it for you guys. Bonus article. TSMC kicks off volume production of 7 ManoNeters. That's it. That's what I wanted to say. 7 ManoNeters. Okay. We've got here, so what I haven't read this article. Sorry, my man. You have to fill us in.
The short version is they've got 18 different customers who are using this technology starting now. Wow. They've been in prototype phase for a while, but they plan to have more than 50 different products by the end of 2018 on 7 nanometer production.
Ryzen will be one
of
these.
And it shrinks die size by 70% at the same transistor count versus the 16 nanometer we've been using.
Wow, I mean, 7 nanometer is a big deal. It's funny because they're gonna go lower than Intel, which will be interesting, eh? Because Intel's going 10 nanometer. TSMC is going to be going 7.
They skipped right by, 10, and so the current 16 nanometer stuff that TSMC has been doing, a 70% area reduction at the same transistor count. That's huge.
That's money saved, too. That's huge.
Or we can get double the CUDA cores or double the streaming, cores on a graphics card.
Wonder about the heat though. That's the thing. Like, if you're compacting it so much, I mean, this like smartphones will be in heaven with this for sure. How would it?
You mean we can actually get a phone that has a battery that lasts longer than a day?
Oh yeah, you'll be getting this. I mean, I wonder if Apple's like, it doesn't say Apple here, but like Apple's probably like booked out the whole assembly. So
well, they're on. I don't know about you, but they're one of those 18. You know that. Yeah. But the frustrating thing is, I remember mobile phones that used to last a week on the battery.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
Oh, Nokia 8210. I love my 8210. I remember my 8210. That lasted a while on its battery, and I had a little snake game on it too. Anyone remember the snake game? Was it Snakes and Ladders or something? And you played it for like 10 minutes. You're like, this is boring. And you moved on.
Well, I just think it's cool that they're doing that. And it'll be interesting to see because Intel's Ice Lake at 10 nanometer is coming next year?
Yeah.
End of this year?
Well, Ryzen's going to 7 nanometer next year. And that's pretty much confirmed. And
is this going to be what Ryzen is on next year?
Yes, I believe it's TSMC's 7 nanometer. I believe, and that's really crazy. So we got asked as well. HD 6870, what's it worth? Oh man,
nothing.
Yeah, like it's 1 gigabyte, dude. I did a video. I think a while ago I did a joke video. 1 gigabyte of VRAM is just limited. You're 720p bound for starters. It's a really tough sell. Man, I'd be paying like $10 for that. Like, just sort of, yeah, I'm not really interested in testing one of those because there's a 6950, which is a better card.
Just by comparison, if you go by user benchmark, an HD 6870 is roughly equivalent to either a GT 1030 or either of the Ryzen APUs.
That's still impressive. Just needs more VRAM.
But the biggest problem is the VRAM because that's raw compute, but a GT 1030 has 2 gigs of VRAM.
Yeah, so 2 gigs is crucial for 1080p.
I mean, maybe that card's worth, what, $25-$30?
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably worth $20. I just pay 10 for one. That's what I'd pay for one. And even then, I probably wouldn't buy it because there's no one who's looking for a piece. Like, because most of the stuff I buy, it has the end intention to sell as a gaming PC because gaming PCs sell. That's how I'm able to do a lot of the used content without losing money. is because I make value and then sell it as a gaming PC. If I wasn't doing that, I'd be losing a lot of money. And so whenever I look at a part, it's like, okay, can I put this in a gaming PC and market it as a strong gaming PC at its price point? R9 290 PCs, oh yeah. I'll be able to say, look, this is 1060 performance, bang, someone will come along and buy that at a discounted price. So yeah, and I'll do the testing and I make the builds, make magic happen. So we're on 7 nanometer as well, 7 nanometer. So the biggest thing that's going to come out of this is the next gen Ryzen. Do you think the next gen Navi as well? Do you think AMD is going to go, and Radeon Group is going to go all out on 7 nanometer? Because it says here GPU, it says here GPU, everything. Everyone's going 7 nanometer. 7 nanometer is the future.
And yet Intel is still struggling with 10. That's interesting.
Well, it's difficult, man. I remember I read an article ages ago saying they were going to really struggle below 10 nanometer. Like any company's going to struggle below 10 nanometer. It's ridiculously expensive and hard to get a node that flourishes below 10 nanometer.
If Ryzen 3, aka Zen 2, launches in March of 2019 at 7 nanometers, and the best that Intel has is Ice Lake at 10, the benchmarks ultimately tell the tale, and I mean, that's just a transistor size and doesn't say anything about performance or clock speed or anything else, but talk about a marketing advantage. You have to imagine that the press and the slides and the announcements they are going to wave the banner that they are first to 7 nanometers on a mainstream desktop CPU. I mean, they'll be holding the 30-foot banner in the air. You'll see.
They'll be employing. You know those guys in costumes and like the pizza, the pizza places. They hire them dudes. They'll have a heap of them waving like 7 nanometer flags.
They'll be doing the spinning signs.
We're on 7 nanometer, and Intel will be like, yeah, we got higher clock speeds, and then that'll just be this battle. But again, I think that's another reason that's going to force Intel to solder their chips again, because AMD did make a big point of having their enthusiast chips soldered. So anyway, yeah, there's that. Putting it out.
Well, this has been fun.
It has been. We're going on way too long, guys. Like I remember you telling me before the stream, you're like, I can only do this for an hour, but we just have so much fun. Thank you guys for the suggestions, everything. We hope it's been flowing better this week as well. Last week we did get some suggestions. I love constructive feedback. I always listen to it. I sift it from the hate as well. The haters, they're just going to drop in. This is just it's straight off the markets. If you're going to complain, I just ban you too. I don't need that crap around my channel. Constructive feedback's awesome. Thanks guys for that. So we got the constructive feedback was the donation noise was annoying. Donations were bumping up and interrupting the stream. So hopefully we fix that this week. And of course we look forward next week to giving you guys another live stream. In terms of the time format, we don't know when we can give out it'd be great to have a scheduled time. This day seems great for both of us. In terms of a scheduled time though, it's Tech Deals is a family man. And so his family's going to come first. So I don't know if we could schedule out a time. Maybe we can work together and give you guys a rough time when the live stream will launch, but don't hold us to it, sort of thing. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. Somebody just said that they need to provide 7 nanometer badges for the front of your PC.
Yeah, I've got it. I'll just make the 7 build. Yeah, 7 nanometer runs Final Fantasy 7 emulated. It's done.
Yep. Final Fantasy 7 on Ryzen 7 at 7 nanometers.
And we put a slot machine on the side of the PC with the 777 ding. Oh, that's going to be it. So 7 nanometer is the future, guys.
They'll have to launch it on June 7th at 7 p.m.
They will. Actually, that would be epic if they did that. So I don't know. But maybe there probably will be delays, I'm guessing, for this. I guess there's always delays with new node shrinks that are massive like that. So I expect some delays. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We always love your company. Enjoy the viewers. Over half a thousand concurrents. That's big. So with that number, we might be able to get some sponsors and just little sponsors, like little subtle things like the glasses here and stuff like that. They're not going to sort of impede on your viewing pleasure. Jar Jar, he's not sponsored. He's always keeping it real. And yeah, any closing words, Mr. Deals?
Not really.
Okay.
I wish I had something clever and funny to say, but I really don't.
That's okay. I think I've exhausted you today anyway. So yeah, go get some sleep and have a good break. Anyway, guys, we'll catch you in the next week's episode and we'll work things out. This is concept that's been, you guys have loved it. It's been overly successful. So thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. And we'll catch you in the next week. Peace out for now. Do you want to say the peace out for now? Bye? I'd love to hear you say it.
Me? Peace out for now and bye?
Yep, and that's it. And also we've got people requested the Scottish accent, so I'll try that as well. All right, guys. Peace out for now. Bye.